So it's been about 5 days since I've watched Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and within those 5 days, I've had some time to think over my general thoughts on the movie. So I'm going to give a sorry, I'm going to give a full. How do I put this? I'm going to make this a full. This is unscripted, by the way. This is going to be a full video where. Well, not video. This is just going to be a general review of the movie. So, overall, I'd say that the main thing I liked about the movie was the fact that this movie, like, according to what I've heard, this has been planned since, 2017, and it was in pre-production, after Broly was out, but they need to get the script and everything, and then the animation, and because of the Toei hack, Toei had to, push the movie back from April to June, which then affected the worldwide release, which I would have been fine seeing it in June or July, but no, they pushed the movie back to August, and I don't really think that worked out that well. In terms of being able to go see the movie, we were able to. And by we, I mean me and my mother, because, well, I went to go see the movie with my mom. But, anyways, there was just one of the weirdest things when it came to the movie. And that was, I was going into this movie knowing a little bit of what was going on. I knew about Orange Piccolo, I knew about Gohan Beast, I knew about Cell Max, I even knew about Broly. But that being said, there was one thing I didn't know going in, and that was the whole thing with Dr. Hito. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's not that, oh, he's Dr. Giro's grandson, or this, that, and the other. No, it is the fact that the doctor likes his Oreos. I am legitimately surprised by how much they show, straight up Oreos in this movie. That's... Am I the only one who noticed that? Am I the only one who legitimately thought that the Oreos were... Wait. Yeah, but, the Oreos... It's just so bizarre seeing Oreos in, this huge setting, and then all of a sudden just oh, hey. And one other thing that I want to mention, this movie's cast, it is the general cast that we've come to expect for Dragon Ball, but with a few new additions. For example, they brought in Zeno Robinson to voice Gamma 2. We'll get to him later on in this little review. Alex Lee to voice Gamma 1. Zach Aguilar to voice Dr. Hito. I know he's pronounced Dr. Hedo in the dub, but I prefer Hito. They have Jason Marnocha to do Carmine, and I'll talk about him as well. And weirdly enough, they brought in Charles Martinet to play Magenta. And that is very interesting. But enough about the dub cast. Which, by the way, yes, I did go see this movie dubbed, but that was because in my local theaters, that was the version that was playing on the biggest screen in the theater. So, yeah, we kinda had to. But that's not saying the dub is bad. I really liked it. But first, let's discuss the whole thing. Now, I want to talk about the animation first. Going into this movie, I had a feeling that there was going to be some issues because, like, when it comes to 3D in a whole bunch of anime, from what I remember, like, there was Berserk 2016, that wasn't very good. X-Arm, that was awful. Like, X-Arm, I didn't even know that X-Arm could be so bad that it kind of canceled the manga, according to what I've heard from some sources. Yeah, the anime was pretty bad. But there are some shows that make the CGI work, like Beastars. I've heard a lot of people like Kengan Ashura. And I think there was also something. I forget what it was, but I think it was a Steven Universe like show that was also fully CGI. Oh, and then there was also Dorohedoro. That one I've heard was pretty good. But CGI in the anime community has a pretty bad rap. And what did I think of the CGI in this movie? Honestly, when I say this is a hit or miss, what I'm really saying is that it's really good, but there are a few, like, the moment where the CGI looks a little off is in the minority as opposed to what it would be normally, which is in the majority. Like, it only looks a little bit off of like 3 or 4 times, and that's throughout the whole movie. But one thing I want to mention is the way the flashbacks are done. The present day stuff is all in CG, but Toei decided to do all of the flashbacks with 2D animation. That's actually pretty interesting because the flashback is animated in full 2D and it details Goku's whole spiel with the Red Ribbon Army back in old Dragon Ball. Like, yeah, the Red Ribbon Army arc. And it even explains, like, all the stuff with Dr. Gero and Android 17 and Android 16. No, not Android 16. How it was explained that he was killed by Android 17, and then Cell came along. But what's interesting is that it mentions that Magenta was the son of General Red, and he was trying to rebuild the Red Ribbon Army through a different sort of company called Red Pharmaceuticals. Weirdly, though, like, they do a little bit of a joke, like, not necessarily a joke like, hey, don't call me short! But, yeah, they do make a little bit of a visual gag about Magenta's height, and I think it works better as a visual gag than anything else. I personally really do like that it was more of a visual gag. Another thing that I really liked was, oh yeah, I am going from in this movie from start to finish. And then what's interesting is we then see them try to pick up Dr. Heat, see Magenta and Carmine try to pick up Dr. Hito from prison. But what's weird is that he's already breaking out, and like there's just this really funny moment because he's leaving the prison, then he tosses something behind him, and then when he's walking away, it explodes, revealing that it was a grenade. That was actually kind of funny. But it's also, like, then there was the whole thing where, like, apparently he was imprisoned for using reanimated corpses to run a convenience store. Like, he was arrested and in prison for that. And that is just very strange to me. Not in the sense that, like, it would, but it was very strange because, like, wait, he's being imprisoned for what? Like, I didn't even understand it at first because it was so absurd. But with Dragon Ball, you kind of have to expect absurd nowadays. Which, we're gonna get to that later on. Trust me. But, yeah. So, when it comes to... Then, after that, Hito gets into the car with Magenta and Carmine, and he actually explains that he already knew that they were there because of the fact that there was no other car that would hover above the ground with a bubble top. And you come to the realization that the bubble top is literally just for Carmine's hair. Once again, that's another form of visual gag that you realize, like, really soon. And it's one of those that if you picked up on it, it's funny. But if you didn't, it's like, oh my goodness, what did I just miss? But anyways, the movie then flashes forward a few months, and then you see Piccolo training with Pan. And, like, I'm pretty sure it's obvious to most Dragon Ball fans that Pan, despite being only 3 years old, is quite literally, like, really, really strong. So, yeah. I think it's safe to say that Pan is definitely more, like, you know. She's more... Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. Pan is more of the... Like, she's a quarter Saiyan, but she can still withstand a lot more than the average, like, she is way tougher than she looks because she can already sense energy, which does come up later in the movie. We'll get to that. But anyways, she then, like, because Piccolo's training her some basic stuff about ki, but before she's going to be able to be taught ki blasts, she's going to be taught about how to fly, and she has trouble flying. Now, I initially had a bit of an issue with this because, like, if you remember in Dragon Ball Super proper, Pan was flying and using ki when she was literally a baby. Like, literally a baby could do that. And it was just really, really weird. And then the weird part came in when, like, oh man, the weird part comes in because you realize that Pan was, like, she's learning how to fly, but then she's also 3 years old. But then Piccolo realizes, oh crud, you still have to go to school. So he sees Pan off, who's headed off to in the Japanese version they say kindergarten, but in the dub they say preschool, which makes more sense. And Piccolo then goes inside his house, and Videl calls him on her phone, and Piccolo has one too. And Videl is busy with her martial arts school, and she asks Piccolo to pick up Pan, but then what ends up happening is it's like she explains that Gohan has not been out of his office for a few days, and he decides to go over to Gohan's house to see what's his deal. And it turns out Gohan is working on a research project about a new type of insect, which are basically ants that go Super Saiyan. And Piccolo, he basically is frustrated with the way Gohan's been doing things lately. So what he does is he uses his you guys who watch Team 4 Star will get what I'm watching. He does his clothes beam, and then he puts on the gi with the weighted shoulder pads, and onto Gohan, which, okay, I really appreciate that is the gi that he's using, because I much prefer his purple gi to his orange gi, to be honest. But anyway, Gohan then goes back to work, and Piccolo goes back to his house for a little bit, but then he's all of a sudden attacked by an android. And this android has the number 2 on his chest. This is Gamma 2. And he and Gamma 2 get into a bit of a fight, and what's interesting here is that Gamma 2 refers to Piccolo as King Piccolo. Yeah, they still think King Piccolo is alive. Or rather, they've been feeding the Gammas information that's not very good, and that information is, hey, this is King Piccolo. So Gamma 2 immediately decides to, like, he was just like, I was just here to fight you, but now I'm gonna kill you now. So he was basically like, okay, let's just like burn it down. And yeah. He thinks he killed Piccolo, but Piccolo survives. And what's interesting is that he follows the dude. Piccolo follows Gamma 2 back to the Red Ribbon Army base, and you see him going in through the front, but then afterwards, like through the base in the front, but then you see him go through a holographic spatial area. So Piccolo sneaks up behind one of the guards, steals his uniform, and puts it on over his regular clothes, and basically decides, okay, I'm going to see what these guys are up to, because it's obviously something not good. So he does his whole espionage thing, and then he goes directly into the room where Magenta, Gamma 2, Gamma 1, Hito, and Carmine are in, and they basically learn their plans, and they name drop something called Cell Max. And Piccolo realizes, oh crap, that can't be good. But then they announce their plans to go, and then he goes off for a little moment and calls Bulma asking, like, hey, Goku and Whis, I need Goku and Vegeta, but Goku and Vegeta are off on Beerus' planet, training with Broly to learn how to control his anger, or rather, trying to control his temper, and Chi-Lai and Lemo are living on his planet, and according to Whis, Beerus has been asleep for like 4 months. And then Vegeta, now this is really stupid, but Vegeta's actually meditating, and Goku's like, I don't quite get it. But then Vegeta's like, Jiren wasn't really that much stronger than us. He was just very, very efficient, putting his full power into everything that he had. He put everything into all of his strikes. And that makes a lot of sense. So, like, yeah. And then Beerus wakes up, Whis tells him it's been 4 months, and he sees Chi-Lai. Chi-Lai's been stealing some stuff from Beerus, and then Lemo is like, wait, not now. Then she meets Beerus for the first time, and she gives a little bit of a look to him, and Beerus just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I like this one. Like, that caught me completely off guard. So, I was not expecting that. Like, I knew that people within the Dragon Ball fandom had things to say about Chi-Lai in that sort of sense, but I had no idea that I had no idea that Beerus would be a character within the series to do that. So, yeah. Beerus has a thing for Cheelai. It has now been officially confirmed. But, yeah. There's also this whole thing regarding, but yeah. Then Goku and Vegeta decide to get into a battle, and the battle is one-on-one, no ki blasts, no transformations, nothing like that. Just pure martial arts combat. Flying can be used, though. Which, we'll get to that in a moment. And the funny thing is, Vegeta, like, okay, we'll get back to that in a moment. But then, back on Earth, it turns out that Bulma apparently has an entire squad at Capsule Corp that hunts for the Dragon Balls just so that way they can't so that they can no one bad can use them. And I was just like, are you serious? Like, legit, are you serious? Because it was just so bizarre to me at the time. I had legitimately no clue what was going on with that. And then, like, you see Piccolo going up to Korin's tower, still in his Red Ribbon Army disguise, and he grabs senzu beans from them. Then he goes up to Dende's lookout, and he asks Dende to reach out for his get his latent potential drawn out, but Dende says he can't do that until he gets older. But he decides to upgrade Shenron, so he pours some sort of special water over the statue, and that upgrades the Dragon Balls to be able to do that now. So Piccolo goes over to Bulma's and is able to make a wish on Shenron to have his latent potential drawn out. And Shenron says, and then Shenron does that, and he's like, by the way, like, all you have plus a bit extra. And that was the only wish Piccolo needed, so Bulma uses the other two wishes for what basically amounts to cosmetic surgery. And then that's it. Then she realizes, oh crap, I could have. But yeah, she's all like, oh no, I should have used one wish to bring back Goku and Vegeta bring Goku and Vegeta back to Earth. And you do realize, like, very early on that, like, no, this was just for, like, this was just straight up just for, like, it was just meant for the guys to have some, like, didn't you guys get the sense that it was a little off? But yeah, like, Piccolo then puts his helmet back on, goes back to the Red Ribbon Army base, finds out they're going to kidnap Pan, so they send him and another guy to her preschool to basically pick her up. But then Pan, like, and then one guy says, like, oh, hey, I'm here to pick up Mr. Satan's granddaughter. Pan is like, I don't know you, and then just punches him. Then she turns to Piccolo and says, oh, hi, Piccolo. And he's like, wow, how did you know it was me? I could sense your energy. And then he turns to her preschool teacher and says, hey, hi there, Janet. And it's like, is Piccolo seriously, like, Piccolo must have picked up Pan from preschool so many times that she's basically become, like, she's with Piccolo on a first name basis, obviously. And it's very funny how that happens. And then Piccolo then takes Pan with him back to Red Ribbon HQ. He was like, hey, pretend to be a hostage. And then she plays along with it, and then the guy wakes up and it's like, you caught her? Yeah, I did. Then he turns to him and says, do not talk about this. Basically saying, like, don't you dare mention that he was, like, don't you dare mention that I was beat up by a 3-year-old. So they bring Pan to Red Ribbon HQ. They put up they have Pan, like, act all scared and stuff, and then she drops the act once she's off camera, basically saying, like, I know I could beat up, like, 90% of these guys. No problem. I'm way stronger than you think I am. And what's even funnier is then they start going to Gohan's place to get him to go. And this is the funny part. They try ringing the doorbell, and Piccolo says to the guy, he's not going to answer it. Use the door. Use the window. And once Gohan realizes that they've kidnapped Pan, he goes ballistic. He even shows up at the Red Ribbon Army base to, like, go up, and Magenta's like, if you want your daughter, you're gonna have to go through him. And we get our first fight with Gamma 1. And Gamma 1 and Gohan start fighting, and Gohan goes Super Saiyan, which, can I just say, Gohan looks utterly ridiculous. Like, completely ridiculous when he's in Super Saiyan but also has his glasses on. It looks just completely wrong. But yeah, Gohan goes Super Saiyan to fight Gamma 1, but it's obvious that the whole thing isn't going to work like normally. So Piccolo says to Pan, like, act like you're hurt. Then she goes along with it, but then you hear Gamma 2 scream out, what do you think you're doing? Good guys don't hurt kids! And then Piccolo's like, wait a minute, did he just say that? And basically what happens is he Gohan then turns into Ultimate Gohan after seeing this, and, well, he starts fighting Gamma 1 more, but then Piccolo reveals who his true identity, and turns into what I want to call Ultimate Piccolo. And I've noticed that his skin in this form looks like it turns. I don't know how to describe it, but it looks very. It looks like his skin turns slightly yellow when he's using it. If you know what I mean. And then he then decides, okay, now is the time to get serious. But then after he and Gamma 2 get into a bit of a fight, he then gets thrown into a cavern, and then they reveal what this bit extra from Shenron is, and I think it was a symbol appears on his back, and it's the Namekian tree symbol, and then he comes out, and then this is Piccolo's first transformation. He's orange, and he's a lot more bulky. And they just call this form Orange Piccolo. It's a very simple name, but hey, I like it. And he starts beating the crap out of Gamma 2. But then, Pan just breaks out of her restraints and then starts beating all the guys up. And once Carmine starts shooting at Pan, Gamma 2 then protects her, basically saying, I've just gotten some new intel on who the villains are. And knows we've been duped. Meanwhile, Magenta is trying to go and activate Cell Max, and Dr. Hito is trying to stop him. Magenta reveals that he's got cyborg implants, and Dr. Hito, he shoots Dr. Hito, but then Dr. Hito brings up something that happened earlier in the movie, where he made a serum that toughened up his skin to withstand a lot of impact. That included being able to survive a gunshot, like a bullet, so he wasn't actually dead. Meanwhile, he used a toxin from Hachimaru to kill Magenta, but before Magenta properly dies, he manages to activate Cell Max, and what happens during this is Bulma, Krillin, Android 18, Bulma, Krillin, Android 18, Goten, and Trunks, who have grown since we last saw them in Broly, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And then Piccolo's you've grown since I last seen you, and then Gohan's when Saiyans get older, we experience a massive growth spurt at some point. And then Cell Max comes out, and they have a big fight, and Gamma 2 decides to be he decides to do the big damn hero moment, and tries to sacrifice himself to kill Cell Max, and it obviously doesn't work, but he does manage to um, lop off his left arm. But what ends up happening is, after that, or I think a little bit before that, Goten and Trunks try to fuse into Gotenks, but they do one of the failed fusions, which isn't actually totally useless because it ends up doing some damage to Cell Max's weak spot, which is his head. So yeah, they managed to hit Cell Max's weak spot, and then what ends up happening is they decide, okay, so we really, really need to stop this. How are we going to do it? So there's that whole spiel about that. And then you get to and then you get to the whole thing with and then you get to Krillin joining in the fight and actually doing stuff. And then what ends up happening is he used the solar flare, good on him. Then he helps Piccolo stop Cell Max from crushing Gamma 2's lifeless body, and he says, "Grow big, like you did against Goku." And then Piccolo is all like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I can do that." So he grows big while as Orange Piccolo, and what ends up happening is he actually explains him growing giant doesn't even do anything. It's just he's bigger. Like just because he's bigger doesn't necessarily mean he's gotten stronger. And I kinda hate that. Mostly because it just feels wrong, man. Like, I get why they did it, but man, that's a bummer. But the weird thing is, then, afterwards, Piccolo tries to tell Gohan, you need to power up a lot more. Take this Sensumine. And after Cell Max brutally beats up Piccolo, there's blood in this movie, which shocked me. When I saw Orange Piccolo bleeding on the screen, I was like, oh, good lord. From modern Dragon Ball movie, this is brutal. And then Cell Max does a big roar with his right hand holding Piccolo up high, and Gohan. Now, this is where I praise the dub. Gohan just sees this and is enraged by this, and Kyle Highbear, he does one of his best screams as Gohan ever, and weirdly enough, and this is when his new transformation, Gohan Beast, occurs, and Cell Max tries to punch Gohan, but but he's still standing there, and he's like thrashes him. Piccolo's still alive, so then he uses his stretchy arms to bind Cell Max so that Gohan can get a clear shot at his weak spot. And Gohan uses the special beam cannon, not the Kamehameha, the special beam cannon to deliver the killing blow. And they obviously get out because the Gambas explain that Cell Max will explode after you hit the weak spot. So they get out. Everyone's fine, except for Gamma 2, who disintegrates at the end. Krillin, Dr. Hito and Gamma 1 want to go to prison for what they did, but then Krillin's like, dude, buddy, the police don't want to see you anymore. Like, even the president doesn't want you to come back. So they decide to set their sights on Capsule Corp. Gamma 1's going to be around again. And then Pan comes back to flying, and I hate this. They show Goten and Trunks fusing again. Oh boy. They teased a proper Teen Gotenks, and we never get to see it. It's stupid. But yeah. And then, Piccolo's like, by the way, how did you know how to do my special beam cannon? And Gohan's like, I've been practicing it? And he's like, that was pretty good. And Piccolo and then, the credits roll after Pan's flying is done. But then there's a post-credits scene where Goku and Vegeta are really worn out, and then Vegeta delivers a soft punch to Goku's chest. Doesn't even phase him. And Vegeta's like, I finally beat Kakarot! And then he just falls to the ground exhausted. It was just a funny moment. So, yeah, that is my review for Dragon. I did just a general plot summary, but my overall thoughts on the movie, really enjoyed it. Animation was much better than I thought it was going to be. The music felt very similar to what you'd see in a superhero movie. And the whole thing with, I think it was, yeah, and then the whole thing with, the dub, I really enjoyed it. When this movie comes out on Blu-ray, I will buy it, and I'm probably not going to watch it subbed, because I saw some clips from the sub, and I'm sorry, but I just don't really like the dub that much. The sub that much when it comes to Gohan's scream when turning into Beast, or Cell Max's scream before Gohan turns into Beast. And yeah. So there we go. And one last thing before I wrap this up. I appreciate Cell Max, because Cell Max is basically just a giant, kaiju monster. He's more monstrous, more animalistic, like Bio Broly was. But unlike Bio Broly, Cell Max is actually, what's the word? Cool? New? So yeah, this is my review for Dragon Ball Superhero. and I will see you in the next anime movie review. Bye bye.